Hey everyone, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Quarantine Kitchen. Wishing you a very wonderful day wherever you are in the world, whatever it is you are doing. Please let us know where you're coming to us from. Please let us know where you're watching and what's happening in your part of the world. Currently in Sydney, it is 6:30 p.m. here in Sydney, Australia. It is a beautifully calm evening. The news has just finished and now it's time to make some scones. It's a great class today. You guys are gonna love this class. It is my gluten-free, vegan if you want it, scone recipe. So I grew up literally, and I say this all the time, I literally grew up with a scone in my hand. Now, the day that I was born, one of the ladies that I was named after my auntie. Her name is Edna. She was in her, I think she was in her 80s when I was born, and she came over to our home the day my mother went into labor with me, and I was, mum was rushed off to the hospital, and she came over to our home to look after my older siblings, and while she was there she made batch after batch of her most amazing delicious scones. So I have dedicated this recipe to her, my Aunt Edna, who was the most incredible cook. Like, I come from a long line of incredible cooks. She was just one of them. So this is her recipe with a few minor changes. Some of those changes that you guys are probably already a little bit familiar with is that I have removed all the gluten from the recipe. I have also removed all the dairy from the recipe. Now that is just an option. You can add dairy if you want to, but for those who are dairy free, I have removed all the dairy, so it's also good for people who are lactose intolerant, and I've also removed all the sugar. So I'm doing two recipes in one during this class today. We are doing the gluten-free vegan scones, dedicated to my Aunt Edna, and we are also, at the end of it, I'm going to teach you guys how to make my sugar-free jam as well, because you gotta have jam on scones, right? And if that jam is sugar-free, you're kind of winning on so many amazing levels. So we're doing two recipes in one today. We're gonna start with the gluten-free scones. We're gonna move on to the jam, and I'm gonna show you guys how it all kind of comes together, and it's really delicious and amazing. So, hi to Fee who's joining us, hi to Donna as well who's joining us as well. Thank you guys. And as I was saying, let us know where you're coming from. Let us know whereabouts in the world you're joining us on this live video, because we have people watching from all over the world, so please let us all know. But let's get into the recipe. As I was saying, cool recipe, very excited. I'm just going to wash my hands very quickly. I realized I was touching my hair, which is not a great thing, so I'm just giving a quick little clean. I had cleaned them prior to the video starting, but I thought I would do it just one more time, just to make sure everything, not that I'm not sure whether I'll be using my hands during this recipe, but just in case I am, it's always nice to have a clean set of digits to get going. So come on down to my bench, let's get into it. It is fairly simple to do, fairly simple recipe. It involves just a few different ingredients, and the first ingredient that we're going to start with today is of course the flour portion, and as these are a gluten-free scone, we need to start with gluten-free flour. So I'm just using a store-bought gluten-free flour. It's up to you what brand you use. I'm brand agnostic. You can use whatever brand you want. And what you want to add in, I've measured it out already, what you want to add into here is you want to put in 250 grams of self-raising, ideally, because you will get a bit of rise out of your scone. Self-raising gluten-free flour goes into our bowl. As well as that, even though I know it's already a self-raising, so it's got a raising agent in it, we are still going to add just a little bit more of a raising agent, just so I make sure I get a really nice height out of it. I'm going to do that by adding a teaspoon of baking powder. Goes in there as well. A pinch of salt. Just helps to balance out the flavors. It doesn't matter if you're doing a savory dish or you're doing a cake. It's always good to have a pinch of salt in there, because it honestly does really balance those flavors out really, really nicely. And by the way, if you're wanting a printed out version of this recipe, if you're madly scribbling the ingredients down, this recipe appeared in my Breads and Pastries ebook, wasn't it, Mahi? Breads and Pastries ebook. Mahi's going to throw up a link to that if you do want the written version. If not, I will attempt to give you all the ingredients here. But if you want it written down, plus I think we've got another sort of 40 odd recipes in that gluten-free breads and pastries book, in that ebook as well. And it's on special because we're doing a special right now. All right, so we've got flour, we've got baking powder, and we've got salt. So those are kind of our dry ingredients. The next thing we want to think about is putting some fat in there. And traditionally, a scone dough is made by rubbing in butter. So you could add butter at this point. So you could add 40 grams of butter, which is about 1.5 ounces. Or if you want to go completely, remember we're doing this dairy free, I'm actually going to use a solid coconut oil. So that's just a coconut oil. It's gone hard because it's cold now. It's nice and hard. I'm going to use a solid one, and you do need to have a solid one here. Definitely pays to have solid rather than liquid. And I know it's a question that comes up often. People are asking, do they buy hard coconut oil that goes hard, or do they buy the liquid form? I would always go with this one here, so it goes hard when it's cold and it softens when it's warm, only because it's a little bit more versatile, because you can do recipes like this. Because I'm going to put my bowl onto my scales, and what I'm going to do now is measure in that 40 grams or 1.5 ounces of, you know, solid, but not completely rock hard, but solid coconut oil goes in there. Remember, as I was saying, you could use butter, but we're doing a vegan one, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing it with your coconut oil. So 40 grams, not too much, goes in there. And at this point, if you've got one of these, go crazy. This is when you put that in there and you sort of, you know, move it around. Me, I'm definitely the sort of person, this is where I cleaned my hands. I thought I might be doing this, is I like to use my fingertips. And just to get involved here, this is a good one for the kids. And all we're doing, I'm using just my fingertips, and I'm just going to keep that hand clean in case the phone rings or I need to do something else with a clean hand. So just using my fingertips, I'm going to rub the oil, the coconut oil, or the butter if you're using hard butter, rub it in to the flour, just like that. So that's why this coconut oil that has the ability to go hard or soft is just so versatile, because sometimes you do need to do this. And this is one of those times, this is one of those recipes where it actually pays to go a little bit old school and rub the fat in, just like you would be doing butter. That's exactly what we're doing here. So that is getting rubbed in. Fantastic. And you kind of like have this kind of crumbly mixture. Like, you don't have to keep on rubbing until it's completely super duper fine. It's okay if there's little chunks in there, but ideally you have kind of this crumbly mixture once you're done. So one hand clean, one hand dirty, you're winning. Fantastic. Right, give it a quick clean off. Like I said, you could use this, and I did not, now I've got to tell you, I did not buy this. Someone bought it for me. I still prefer to use my fingers, but on occasion I have used this when the butter has been really hard. I have used that, but I do find that the finger method is quite therapeutic. And what do we need right now during this lockdown? We need therapy. We all need therapy. This is therapy. Making dough is therapy. All right, so that is now in there. Let's think about adding the liquid portion. So there's two types of liquid that are going to be adding into this. And probably the best way to do this is, you've heard the hole before. If you've ever done any baking, you've heard of making a well in the middle, which basically means you make a hole, you build the flour up on either sides, which is another great activity for the kids to make a perfect little well. The reason we're making a well, it's just easier to incorporate the liquid and the dry together. So we're going to add, like I said, we're going to add our liquid portion. And the liquid that I'm adding today, remember we're going vegan or dairy free, is I am going to be adding in coconut cream. Now, you don't, if you want to not go dairy free, you could also add cream at this point. You know what, if you've got a really good quality coconut milk, that works as well. So into the well, which I've got in the middle of my flour, can you kind of see where the hole is? Yep, that's where we're going to add it. I'm going to be adding in, make sure this goes on to milliliters. I'm going to be adding in, where are we, there we go, 125 milliliters of coconut cream, or really good quality coconut milk, or you could add normal cow's cream, like liquid cream. 125 milliliters is around about 4.5 fluid ounces goes in there. Now I'm going to be also adding one more liquid, as I was saying, and this liquid is just soda water, just sparkling water, carbonated water. Another 125 mils or 4.5 ounces goes in there as well with the sparkling water. So combined we have 250 mils of liquid that's just got in there. Perfect. Okay, so pretty much those are all the ingredients. That's all there is. There's nothing else that we need to add. So I'm going to get rid of the scales. Get rid of the scales. I'm going to take up my wooden spoon, and then what I'm going to do is very gently I'm going to combine these ingredients together. So the wet with the dry. You don't have to do much to it. In fact, this is the moment where you have to err on the side of caution in terms of how you are mixing, because you do not want to overmix your scone dough. One of the, I suppose, one of the real watch points when it comes to making scones is at this point here, when you're bringing the dough together, you want to be as gentle as possible, as light as possible, and use as little movement as you can, because the more we beat away at it and we belt it into order to make it conform to what we want it to do, the more we are knocking out all the air, and it's the air that gives us that beautiful rise in our scones. So be gentle, be cautious, be gentle. Even if it looks a little bit crumbly, that's okay. What I've got here now, it doesn't even look like a cohesive unit, right? It looks kind of crumbly. That's fine. I probably did that mixing with my wooden spoon maybe 10 times maximum. That's all you want to do. So now that we're at this point, the more you mix it, the less rise you're going to get out of your scones. Just remember that. So just go gentle, go even, and go no more than 10 times. And if it still looks like a crumbly mess, that's fine as well. So I'm going to move my chopping board to the side now, because what I want to do here now is work on my bench. So taking a little bit more of our gluten-free flour, give it a bit of a sprinkle on the bench, just so it doesn't stick. You don't need too much, just a little bit of a sprinkle, just like that. I'm going to turn the dough out of the bowl. Remember, it's a crumbly mess. Crumbly mess is fine. It'll all come together. It'll all make sense. Don't panic. Don't panic, Captain Mannering. If anyone knows what that's from, I remember we used to say that all the time as kids. When people were panicking, don't panic, Captain Mannering. Yeah. Some of you who are over the age of 40 will know what that means. Okay, so I've got this wonderful mess here, which is perfect. Now using my hands, I'm just patting gently. Just gently, and I'm picking it up, turning it over, like literally caress this dough. Like think of it like a newborn baby, where you'd want to be so incredibly delicate with that newborn baby. Or if you're a fur parent, it's a newborn kitten or a newborn pup. You do not want to be rough at all. You want to be so incredibly gentle, because it's very fragile. And that's basically what this dough is. It's amazingly fragile. But even just with that little amount of working, look what I've managed to do. I've managed to give myself a complete ball of dough. I didn't use this part of my palm to knead it. Forget about all that sort of stuff. You need to absolutely forget that is even what normally happens to dough. Is when it comes to scone dough, be gentle. Think of it like a little baby. You want to be very, very gentle. All right, so now that it's at that point, I'm going to take up my rolling pin, my little baby roll. Look at it, so cute. Isn't that the cutest rolling pin you've ever seen in your life? I know, right? It's so gorgeous. I don't even know where I got it from, but I have it and I love it. I'm just going to add a little bit more flour to the bench because I don't want it to stick, just a little bit. Not much. It doesn't need much at all. This is a nice dough that we have here. Right. Being so gentle. God, I love this. I love this sort of ability to kind of like caress and touch. And then gently, be very gentle now. Right. No pressure. Not pushing down hard. You don't need to go to the gym for this, which is great because no one can go to the gym. So it's actually really good. What I'm saying is you don't need muscles. And I'm allowing the rolling pin to do the work for me. Not putting any pressure on it. Like you can do it with one finger. All I'm trying to do is to get an even roll out without knocking any of the air out of it. I'm just going to turn it. Give it a bit of a, what was that? That was a quarter turn. Bit more rolling. If it starts to stick to this, Then you take a little bit of your flour, just dust it over the pin, and then once again, gentle, gentle does it, yeah? If you're finding this may be easier for you, is that you just press it with your fingers. Press it, just like that. Now, how thick do you want this to be? Depends on how thick you want your scones to be. Now, from this mixture that I've given you, you're going to make 6 to 8 scones, yes? And that's not very many, because you might want them really big. If you like your scones quite thin, which I'm probably going to start a controversy here. I actually like thin scones. I know those ones like that, I'm actually about half the size. So if you like your scones thin like me, controversial or not, keep rolling it out further. If you like your scones to be fat, stop here. Like you may think you can get more out of them. Don't do that. Yeah, just calm your farm and leave it like this, because this is going to mean you're going to get fat scones. And if you like fat scones, that's good. If you don't, keep rolling a little bit thinner till it gets to about that thin. Because one of these things when it comes to these scones is you're not going to get a massive rise out of them as you would with your traditional gluten scones. You're not going to get that big puff like you're used to. They're not going to rise much. So depending on how thick you roll this is going to depend greatly on what sort of size scones you get. So you've noticed that I have a cutter. I'm using a cookie cutter. It's about, I don't know how big that is. It's about that big with my finger. Does that make sense? It's about that big. It's about that big. There you go. Which is maybe 5, 10, maybe 15 centimeters. No, about 10 centimeters. About 10 centimeters. Right. So dust it in the flour. Really important because you don't want it to stick. And then what you want to do, and this is a very important step, is you want to push down. And what you should hear is a puff of air when you do this. Yeah, because you know that this is now active. So push down. Did you hear that puff of air? Did you guys all hear that? That is exactly what you want to hear when you push down. And when you go up, make sure you don't twist as you're taking it out. Go straight up. If you twist, you'll actually confine the scone and it won't rise as much. Because when you twist it, the dough kind of twists in on itself and it may not rise as much. So here we go. We'll do that again. I know there was a few techniques involved there. So we're going to put it into the dough. We're just with our hand, we're just going to take one swoop down, and you should hear that poof of air as it comes out. And then we're going to remove the cutter without twisting it. Easy, right? Now that you guys know how. Always remember that when you're making scones. Straight down, poof of air, bring it straight out. That means you're not condensing those layers and they have the ability to rise once they go into the oven. Now remember, you're not going to get very many out of these. 6 to 8, maybe 9 if you're really lucky. And it kind of all depends on how thick you roll it. Like when I roll mine quite thin, because I like the thin ones, I get about 12 to 14. So it's quite good. All right, so we're at this stage now. I'm going to bring across my chopping board. I'll show you why in a second. I'm not chopping anything, but there's a really important reason why I'm bringing this here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going over to the oven. Right, in my oven, I have an extremely hot baking sheet. Quite a heavy baking sheet too, as you can see. Old and gnarly, a little bit like me. That has now been in the oven for as long as my oven's been preheating, and my oven has been preheating on 220 degrees Celsius, which is about 430 degrees Fahrenheit, with this tray in there. Because this tray being hot is vitally important to get the rise out of our scones. So no grease required, just a light dusting of flour onto your heavy baking sheet that is hot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our scones onto our tray like that. They don't need much space because they don't do a lot of, they go up, they don't tend to go out, as you guys probably are aware. So we can just, you know, pop them onto our tray just like that. Don't have, like I said, don't have to leave much space. And then with the remnants, there's a few little goodies here. We don't want to waste any of that. Bring them together. You're still being gentle. At no time do you start being rough. You need to always caress this dough. Treat it like a baby. Remember, it just needs your loving care. So we're just going to do exactly what we did before, bringing it into a ball, being very gentle, and then taking my rolling pin. Once again, then the rolling pin do the work for me. So when I did this, I'm just dragging in some of the flour that's already on the bench because I don't want to waste it, which is really cool. Just dragging in that flour. Just doing a bit more dragging of the flour so we don't waste any of the flour on our bench. Remember, the size that you roll it out to will be the size of your scones once they're finished. So more flour just to dust our little cutter, and then remember the poof. There we go. You guys heard that poof, right? That's exactly what we want. All right, fabulous. Remember, go straight up. Don't twist. You can cut. You don't have to make rounds. There's nothing stopping you from cutting them into triangles, which is what my Aunt Edna used to always do. She didn't use a cutter. She always made triangle scones. And then there was always, you know, the ends always had odd shapes. And they were my favorite because they got super duper crispy. But if you want to be fancy pants, then you can totally use a cutter. But there's nothing stopping you from cutting them into triangles or squares or whatever you want. But one of the good things about this particular dough is that you do have a little bit more leeway with it because it is gluten-free. You are able just to get that very last, look at me, this is the baby one, baby scone out of it, just like that, cutie one goes on. So how many did I get? I got 8, 9 and a half. I got 9 and a half. That's not too bad, right? Okay, so we're at that point now. The only thing you need to do, we've got to work fast because we want to keep our tray hot. Our oven is extremely hot. I have some non-dairy milk here. So if you used coconut cream in your mixture, you would then add coconut cream just as a glaze on the top of your scones. If you just use normal cow's milk, then this would be cow's milk that you would be using to glaze the top of your scones, just like this. And once they are glazed, and you don't have to glaze them, but glazing them just always helps with the browning process. So, you know, we eat with our eyes, so it's really nice to have our scones lovely and coloured up for us. So once you have glazed with that little bit of coconut milk or coconut cream or normal cow's milk, all we need to do now is pop them over into the oven they go. All right, so really important, when you put them into the oven, put them into the middle part of the oven. You don't want them to be too high because they will burn on the top, and you don't want them to be too low in the oven because they will burn on the bottom. So you want to place them as close as you can into that tray, into the middle of the oven. Really important, so you get an even cooking all around your scone as opposed to having burnt bottoms or burnt tops. So put that tray into the middle of the oven. So those scones are now going to sit in there. I'm just checking my recipe. I can't remember how long. 14 to 16 minutes. They're going to be in the oven for. Mahi, could you set an alarm please for 14 minutes? Thank you. If I say, you know, the word that starts with G, and it's not gangster, if you're wondering. It's not gangster. The other G word. Then all my phones and computers will all go off at the same time. So I'm just getting my head to set an alarm for us. Thank you. So now that those are cooking in the oven, I'm going to show you guys how to make the jam. Jam's really easy. Jam is so easy, you could literally do it with your eyes closed. Probably not a good idea, but you could. If you wanted to, you could do this recipe with your eyes closed. Now this recipe, I believe, is in my healthy treats ebook. If you want that one, there's 50 healthy treat recipes in there, including my sugar-free jam recipe. And how the heck do you make jam without sugar, right? That's the big question. And the reason why I thought it would be a really nice idea for us to do jam right now is a lot of people have been asking me for jam recipes because it's mulberry season, apparently. Not where I am, but apparently where lots of our people are who are watching and who are part of our group, it's mulberry season. So they've got mulberry jam, so let's do a jam recipe. Now the one I'm doing today is going to be a mixed berry jam. You can use any type of fruit you want, but I'm using mixed berries, which I've actually got frozen in my freezer. So come on back down to my bench. Let's do this. So what you need to do, it's really, like I said, it's so simple, no cooking required. How good is that, right? You will need a blender if you've got one, or you can use a bullet or whatever it is. You don't have to actually have a blender like this. And I'm going to measure everything straight into here, which is even easier. As I said, this is like not even a 5-minute jam recipe. This is like a 2-minute jam recipe. It's incredibly, incredibly fast. So I'm going to put our food processor straight onto our scales. And as I was saying, I am using frozen berries. Doesn't matter what type of frozen berries you use. It's completely up to you. I'm using a mixed berry today, which are where? I've got to find them. Oh, there they are. Mixed frozen berries, just like this. You could use just plain strawberries, you could use blackberries, you could use blueberries, you could use, raspberries. Totally up to you. So I'm using 300 grams, which is around about 10.5 ounces of berries, fresh or frozen. Doesn't have to be berries, it can be other type of fruit as well. And they're just going to go straight into my little blender here. 300, perfect. And as well as my berries, I am going to add in, the next ingredients that I'm going to add in is actually just a little bit of water. I'm just going to use soda water. You could just use normal water from the tap, but I happen to have soda water handy. I'm going to add 60 mils, which is about 2 fluid ounces of water, is going to go in there as well. So 2 fluid ounces or 2 really big nips of water goes in there. As well as that, I'm also going to add a bit of a sweetener. Now the sweetener that I'm using today is a little bit of fiber syrup. So fiber syrup is a prebiotic syrup that you can purchase. And if you want to purchase your fiber syrup, just go online. I purchased mine from Surkin, Australia. Surkin. They have fiber syrup there. And I'm going to be adding in 5 tablespoons of fiber syrup. Goes into there. If you like it sweet. If you don't like it that sweet, go half, go 2.5. Completely up to you. I don't actually like it that sweet. I reckon I've got about 3 tablespoons of fiber syrup goes in there. And as well as that, the very last thing we're going to add is what's going to help to thicken this jam. Because we're not cooking it, we're not adding sugar, we're not adding pectin, we're adding nothing but the ingredients that you currently have seen. Water, berries, fiber syrup, and chia seeds. Now chia seeds are what is going to help our jam to gel and solidify, which is really, really important for jam, is that you need it to be nice and thick. So I am using, for this mix, I've got white chia seeds. You could use black ones, it doesn't matter. I'm using white ones today. I'm using 3 tablespoons, not heaps, but 3 tablespoons of chia seeds go in there. And then all you need to do to make your jam a success is blend it. Like seriously, that is it. Alright, just blend. Are you ready? Oh, better plug it in. Plugging it in usually helps when it comes to the blending. Okay. And you know what else helps? Making sure that it's all connected. Let's try that again, shall we? Whoa. I have a solid mass. I have a solid mass of stuff. Alright, let's try that again. Come on. No, she doesn't want to work today. Okay, bear with me. I have one in the dishwasher. A clean one. Let's try that again, shall we? Somewhere in here. Alright, there's the lid. There is oh, yep, we need that. Totally need that. There is that. I got that as well. And I just need the jug. Where is the jug? Up. Alright, let's try that again. So, this goes in, make sure it snaps into place. And then the frozen berries, the water, the fiber syrup and the chia seeds going to go in there. Very unceremoniously. Thank you. Off you go. Put that in there. Make sure you get it all in. Thank goodness I have 2 of these, but yes, I actually have 3. Just in case, for occasions like this, you never know what's going to happen, right? Okay. Let's see if this works now. There we go. Success. You just want to blend it until it looks like jam. That's all you gotta do. And you like, some people like their jam quite chunky, so you could maybe leave it at this point here, or you could, like, it's still got chunks of fruit in it, or if you want, you can just take it a couple seconds further and you will end up with more of a puree. So this is quite thick already, as you can see, but as it sets, and you'll get some of the liquid from the berries kind of coming out naturally, as it sits, it'll thicken, because that's what the chia seeds do. The chia seeds will swell up to 10 times their size, and so you will get a very thick set jam, but you just need to be a bit patient. So the best thing to do is with this now is that just goes into some jars, and that can sit in your fridge for 3 to 4 weeks, provided every time you go into it, you go in with a clean knife. Remember that, it's really important. Go into it with a clean knife, it'll last longer, but that will now sit in your fridge as jam. I'm going to have a bit of a taste, because the scones smell good, so I'm hoping that this is looking pretty good too. Wow! Oh god, it's so good. It is amazing. A little bit tart, because who doesn't like things a little bit tart, right? Tart's good. A little bit tart. I mean, you could just eat that as dessert, quite frankly, but you can also keep it as jam. But that is so delicious. That is literally a really good sorbet. So that's jam, done. Doesn't matter what you're using. Like, for those who have been saying they've got a lot of mulberries, I've also seen people with a lot of guavas use the same type of quantity, and you will be able to make your own sugar-free jam that's going to set without any cooking, thanks to our chia seeds. So it's that simple. I don't think, how much time have we got left on our clock there, Mahi? We've got a bit of time left.
6 minutes.
6 minutes, that's right. I'll show you guys one that I made earlier. Scones, remember, I like them thin. Just remember that before you start being judgy. Just 1 second. Don't be all judgy. So here's some I prepared earlier. Dun 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 dun. Don't, like I said, don't be judgy on my thin scones. I doubled up. There's 2 there. But you can see that wonderful glaze that we have on top of the scone, right? I know it's thin, this is how I like them. If you had cut them thicker, you would get more of a rise, remember that. So we have this wonderful glaze on top from that milk. It smells delicious. It smells like a scone. Like, if you wanted to have Devonshire tea right now, or even just afternoon tea, this is the perfect occasion. Now, how can we keep it completely dairy-free? If you wanted to, right? I'll show you guys how. So come on back down. Oh, do you see my plate? Yep, it is a Union Jack plate, because it's very fitting, right? It's a Union, I know, right? It's a Union Jack plate. It's gorgeous. So we're gonna top our scones. Traditionally, Devonshire tea would mean cream, whipped cream and jam, which is perfect, and there's nothing stopping you from doing that. But if you are vegan, or if you just can't tolerate cream anymore, like me, I love cream, but cream has said to me we can no longer be friends. So because we can no longer be friends, I'm no longer friends with cream, I have to find my alternatives. This is one of my alternatives, coconut yogurt, straight out of the tub. You don't even have to sweeten it. You do not have to sweeten it, and I'll show you why, and it's thickened. And it's nice and thick, this one too, look at that. It's a lovely thick coconut yogurt that I have there. I'm just going to put that on top. Just like that. If these scones were hot, oh my gosh, straight out of the oven, sorry, licking my finger, straight out of the oven would be phenomenal. But there is nothing stopping us from taking that wonderful, oh, look at that, that wonderful jam that we just made. You can now take it and top your scone just like that, and you have the most wonderful opportunity to have your Devonshire tea or your afternoon tea with your scone and your coconut yogurt, and you can keep it completely 100% dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, vegan if you so want it. I reckon even the Queen would be pretty happy with that. I reckon she would. I reckon she'd approve of my little scone that we have made. So that is Aunt Edna's famous gluten-free, dairy-free vegan scones with my homemade sugar-free chia jam that takes you know, the hardest thing about making the jam was finding this thing in the dishwasher. That's how easy it is to make, right? It's completely nuts. And then you get to serve it on a Union Jack plate, because that's what scones are all about. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget, if you want a printed version of this recipe, Mahi's going to share a link for my gluten-free breads and pastries ebook. I have one more thing to show you before you go. One more thing. Yes, I'm teasing you, because that's what we do, right? Oh, by the way, don't forget to enter our quarantine bake-off. You could make these. Make these. Take a photo. Take a photo. Make these for our quarantine bake-off. You could win a signed, personally signed copy of one of my books of your choosing. I'll post it out to you anywhere out in the world. If not, I'll send it to someone that you love anywhere in the world as well. That ends this Friday. So get in with your quarantine bake-off. What you can do is go hashtag quarantine bake-off, post it on our private group. I've got one thing to show you. Do not leave. This is really important. You need to know what we're doing tomorrow on Quarantine Kitchen. And it's a good one. It's a good one. Are you ready? Don't tell anyone I told you. This is between me and you, right? This is between me and you, no one else. Tomorrow on Quarantine Kitchen, I've been in my test kitchen all day. We're going to be making the most incredible gluten-free cheese muffins you have ever had in your life. They are so good, and we're going to make these tomorrow on Quarantine Kitchen. That's what we're making tomorrow, so you better join me. That's tomorrow, around about the same time tomorrow night. Don't forget, Quarantine Bake-Off, make some scones, make it delicious. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.